Welcome back. Some scary numbers suggest Americans are in no position to survive tough economic times. More than half say they could not pay for an unexpected $1,000 financial hit. Here with some tips on how to survive and thrive after a job loss is Yahoo Finance contributor Mandi Woodruff-Santos. She is the co-host of Brown Ambition podcast. Mandi, nice to see you. One of my favorite quotes from Winston Churchill: success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. What's step one, though, when you might lose a job?
Yeah, I know it seems a little ironic to talk about losing jobs when it seems like jobs are super abundant, right? But absolutely not. I think everyone should always stay woke when it comes to the possibility of being laid off. I mean, we've seen hundreds of workers from companies like GoPuff and Better.com, thousands at Better.com losing their jobs. So my advice is don't wait until you're laid off to then start thinking, okay, what can I do? Actually, before, when you're actually gainfully employed and things are going pretty well, keep your network warm and don't be afraid to actually tell people if you are to be laid off. You know, those are really two important, strategies for people if you're thinking about how can I actually bounce back? How can people help you if they don't know something has happened? And then who are you going to reach out to, and how difficult will it be to reach out to folks if your network has been stagnant for years?
Going back to school, upskilling for a new job, or just trying to find a new one entirely, where has the data shown us where people who have lost a job are leaning into some of those new opportunities or charting that new course?
What I love to see about these mass layoffs these days is that there's this lack of shame around it. People are actually very quickly starting things like group public Google spreadsheets where they're actually putting, here's my name, here's what I did, here's my LinkedIn profile, I'm available and ready to work. And fortunately, because of the current economic environment we're in right now, where there are, a lot of jobs out there and companies that are hiring, especially in some really, industries that are seeing shortages right now of labor, and people are able to bounce back quicker than they would have, in leaner time. So it's not the worst time to be flung back into the job market, which is great. But what about those times when things are not so flush? That's why I'm saying keep your network super fresh. And also, like you said, invest in your leadership and your own professional skills so that you're really attractive to employers who may be looking at those shared public spreadsheets and wondering, okay, I have a lot of openings here, but who am I going to reach out to from this list to see if they're available?
And Mandi, I want to talk mindset now, because for a lot of us, what we do is so inextricably linked to who we consider ourselves, our identity, that when we lose that, it feels like we've lost something of ourselves. How should people really manage that so that they don't end up sabotaging their next move and they can really build their resilience?
So that's where shame comes in. I mean, I consider myself pretty lucky that I was laid off from one of my very first jobs when I was 22 years old, because it got me through that hurdle. Okay, I've been laid off. So what now? Is my career over? No, I'm 22. But whether you're 22 or 32, 42, 52, you have to immediately recognize that this could happen to anyone. And it does every day. Companies have shareholders to answer to. They have IPOs to concern themselves with. So honestly, some of these downsizing that we've been seeing are not about the lack of talent. Okay, so I think you have to get really clear with yourself. What are my actual skills? What's my talent? And it's not me, it's them. So let me keep my head held high. Don't be ashamed to tell people I've been laid off. If you don't tell people what's happened to you, how can they actually help you? And I think once you start opening up to people and telling them what's happened to you, you're going to find that you're in a pretty cool club. A lot of us have been let go and we're doing just fine. Okay.
I'm a part of that club, and Rachelle, you really nailed it. Losing your identity is the most difficult part of that, in particular when you happen to be in the media. Right now, though, with 11 million open jobs, Mandi, how opportune a time is that, and how do you navigate these open jobs out there right now?
Network, network, network. I will say it till I'm blue in the face. You can't wait until you've been laid off. But let's say, you have been laid off and you're on the job market right now, immediately starting to tell people. So whether it's on LinkedIn, on Twitter, reaching out to people via email, reaching out to anyone you can think of who's a peer or someone who may know someone in your industry, and starting to work those levers of professional relationships and personal relationships can really give you the edge. Of course, you should apply for jobs and, be dutifully watching LinkedIn and other job boards boards for listings that are attractive to you and submitting your resume and application 1,000%. But to give you that extra edge and a little bit of extra turbocharge for your job search, definitely tell people that you are open, what it is that you're wanting to do, so that they can help you, that they can give you referrals, recommendations, you do an email intro. Those types of opportunities can happen if you're willing to extend a hand, virtually to your peers and let them give you a little bit of help.
Mandi, just lastly, while we have you here as well, everybody wants to know when they're looking for that new job or that new role, where the money reside at the end of the day. And so with that in mind, you're not necessarily in the best position to turn down offers, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're negotiating correctly. And so how can you go through those phases and negotiate correctly and advocate for yourself for the salary that you'd really like?
This is why I always tell people, just because you've been laid off, think about your emergency fund and how much money you've got in the bank to kind of tide yourself over if this were to happen, because that financial security is going to give you the ability to think twice before you just take the first job that comes your way. Like I had to do when I was laid off at 22 and had nothing to my name but like a half paid off mattress from Sleepy's. Okay. So you don't want to be so desperate that you have to immediately take what you can get. That being said, be a little bit confident and be aware of what companies are looking for. If you have a particular skill set or some experience that is really valuable, don't let people make you think that you're not worth what you're actually worth. Like I said, just because you may have been laid off doesn't mean that other companies are not struggling to actually find talent. So do not take the first offer that you're accepted. First and foremost, give yourself 24 to 48 hours and say, I'm going to think about this, and then come back to them and ask for more. You never want to leave money on the table. And if you need a network of colleagues, peers, friends, whoever, to kind of like gas you up a little bit so you can go into a negotiation feeling confident in what you're asking for, then do it. Because companies have so many incentives now, signing bonuses, stellar compensation, other benefits, and you just don't want to find yourself leaving money on the table.
Got to have that hype group meet over Google Hangouts or something like that before the negotiations and the talks for sure. Mandi Woodruff-Santos, who is the Yahoo Finance contributor, co-host as well of Brown Ambition podcast, very sound insights. And thanks so much for joining us here today.